Would you please now join me in welcoming the King's Brass?
Many years ago, a wise musical king wrote these words: "He has given me a new song to sing of praise to our God. Many will see the glorious things he hath done for me and stand in awe before the Lord and put their trust in him." It's great to be back here with you again. My name is Tim Zimmerman. I come from the high of the storm of Hurricane Ian. I live in Fort Myers, Florida. We got beat up a little bit. We've been staying with neighbors, but last week I stayed in my own bed for the first time since the hurricane. So we're on the mend. We want to continue with a song about an Old Testament hero of mine. This man was a general in the army, but in his army he had quality, because in his army he had trumpets. And when the trumpets played, it said the walls of the city came tumbling down. So here's the musical story about Joshua. The American composer Aaron Copland wrote a wonderful piece for brass called Fanfare for the Common Man, but he also wrote many pieces for the American ballet. But his ballets were different because people danced in cowboy hats and cowboy boots. And since all the members of the King's Brass have studied classical ballet, thought we would do the ballet Rodeo. This is about a Western wedding, and this is the Hoe-Down. We're glad for some of the kids who've joined us here this evening. We're always glad when they come. We want to do a story about a man who was very smart. In fact, the Bible called him wise. See, he wanted to build his house right next to the ocean, but he knew that there are great big storms that came off that ocean. That he couldn't put his house right on the sand, he'd have to put it up on a great big rock. And I think if you listen real closely, you can hear the workers working on that foundation. They're hammering, they're sawing. So coming in with the foundation of our group, the lowest member of our brass ensemble, Mr. Tuba, with the foundation of the house. And completing the foundation is the keys. Right behind me playing percussion from Grand Rapids, Michigan, the doctor himself. Please welcome Dr. Colton Morris.
Hello, my name is Jacob Fulkerson, and I live in Dallas, Texas, where everything is bigger, except for me.
Hi, my name is Dr. Sunghwan Kim, originally from South Korea, but now I'm living in Columbus, Ohio. I have 4 degrees and no job.
Well, now we have the foundation, we have the walls of the house with the middle members of our brass family, the trombones. We have the tenor and the low bass trombone.
Hi, my name is Christian Marple. I live in Fairfax, Virginia, and I'm not a trombone player, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Hello, my name is Kyle Davidson, and I'm coming to y'all from the belt buckle of the Bible Belt, Cleveland, Tennessee.
My name is Jonah Trout, and I come from Steel City, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where the sun shines, the grass grows, and the steel is made in China.
Well, now we have the foundation, the walls. We have the roof of the house with the top members of our brass family, the trumpets. We have the B-flat trumpet, the flugelhorn, and the baby piccolo trumpet.
My name is Dr. Tony Sanders. I come from Bruton, Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes and 10 million mosquitoes.
Hello, my name is Joey Schnoebelen, and I come to you all from Iowa, where we have more pigs than people. That's a lot of bacon.
Well, now we have the foundation, the walls, and the roof, and this is the way our house sounds when we put it all together. there was this second guy. He was very cool, but he wasn't very smart. He was from New Jersey. Nah, he wanted to build his house right next to the ocean. He was kind of a beach bum. He wanted to make it so he could get on his surfboard and hang 10 and ride right into his back patio. And since he couldn't put a foundation there, do you know what he did, kids? He fired the foundation people. He told them to get lost, get out there. He decided he was going to make it with just the walls and the roof. And it was okay for a little while. But then the storms came, and this guy, he was in serious trouble. Yep, kids, that's what happened. And that's what Jesus was trying to teach with this parable. That if you build your life on anything else but the sure rock of Jesus Christ, you're kind of like that foolish man. Or in other words, you just can't make it without a good foundation.
You've got that right.
These next set of pieces are typically Americana. This first piece is heard in The Wizard of Oz and was initially removed from the film, though Judy Garland's vocal coaches persuaded the producers to keep it in. As a result, the world was introduced to Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Well, you're probably wondering why we play all these instruments. And the answer is quite simple. You haven't heard us sing. So we would like you to join us in singing the hymn, A Mighty Fortress is Our God. The words will be projected on the screens, and the brass and organ will introduce the hymn with a fanfare. So simply watch us for the cue and join us in singing A Mighty Fortress.
Please stand and join with us in singing, A Mighty Fortress is Our God. Beethoven, in his Ninth Symphony, wrote a wonderful melody from which we get a hymn of the church. Joyful, joyful, we adore thee, God of glory, Lord of love. Hearts unfold like flowers before the opening to the sun above. Melt the clouds of sin and sadness, drive the dark of doubt away. Giver of immortal gladness, lead us to the light of day.
Behold, there was a man who built his house upon a rock.
Oh, how wise I am to build my house on a rock, and how foolish is the man next door who built his house on the sand. For it is written that when the rain descends, the floods come, and the winds blow, the house built upon the rock will fall not, but great will be the fall of the house built on the sand.
And so laughing, the man went inside and slammed the door.
Now I will relax and wait for the storm warnings, for I know my house is founded safe on a rock.
And so he waited, and he waited, and he waited. But there was nothing. There was no wind, no rain, no floods, not even a minor drizzle.
Well, I'm sure that storm will come along any minute now. But in the meantime, the man who built his house on the sand must be pretty nervous. I bet he's having a terrible time in that flimsy little house of his. What? This is outrageous. Those people should be miserable, not happy. They should be begging for shelter in my house, hoping to escape the rain, the winds, and the floods.
And so the man went inside and slammed the door. And while he was inside, he listened to the weather reports, waiting for those storms to arrive.
Hey guys and gals, don't forget that sunscreen. High of 85, low of 70, if not a cloud in the sky, for as far as the eye can see.
The next day, however, the man heard strange noises coming from next door.
Aha! This is it. The house built on the sand is falling. And how great will be its fall. What? They're building a beachfront resort? Where is that storm? The wise man built his house on the rock. The foolish man built his house on the sand. Then the rains come tumbling down. Everybody knows that.
And the rains did, in fact, come tumbling down, but they only tumbled on the house built upon the rock. Not even a drop fell on the house built upon the sand.
Why me? My house may stand firm, but now I have to patch the roof, clean the gutters, and bail out the basement. What must my neighbor do? Absolutely nothing.
And so it was. In the coming months and years, the man who built his house upon the sand grew richer and richer, more and more successful, happier and happier. Meanwhile, the man who built his house upon the rock, he had to patch the roof, clean the gutters, and bail out the basement.
You know what? I give up. I've waited and waited. I've watched the sky. I've patched, cleaned, and bailed. A record rainfall has descended upon my house, and not so much as mist has hit my neighbor's house. Any fool can see there's not going to be a storm. Well, you know what they say. If you can't beat 'em, join 'em!
That very night, The rains descended, the floods came rushing in, and the winds blew and beat upon both houses. And the house built upon the sand, it fell, and great was its fall. But the other house, it fell not, for it was founded safely upon the rock. It's just too bad. Nobody was home.
Lamentations 3:22 and 23 says, "It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness." Please stand and join with us in singing, "Great is thy faithfulness." Let's stand as we sing. Jesus concludes the Sermon on the Mount with the story of the man who builds his house on the rock and the man who builds his house on the sand. As Jesus tells this parable story, he gives this explanation. He says, everyone who hears these words of mine and does what I say is like a man who builds his house on the rock. And when the storms of life come, his house will remain firm. But everyone who hears these words of mine and walks away and doesn't do them is like a man who builds his house on the sand. And when the storms of life come, his house will come crashing down. And Jesus adds, and great will be its fall. I studied with a trumpet teacher in Detroit, where at my first lesson, he announced to me that he was agnostic and he did not believe in God. I paid him for a 1-hour trumpet lesson. And for the first hour, we had a very intense trumpet lesson. The second hour, we discussed faith, God, and Jesus Christ. This went on for a year. 1-hour trumpet lesson, 1-hour discussion. I went off to the East Coast to go to graduate school, heard years later that he'd been diagnosed with cancer, moved to northern Michigan to be with family. I went up to see him. Walked in his room, there was a Bible sitting next to his bed. I asked him, what's with the Bible? He said, well, one of his students had given it to him when he'd been diagnosed with cancer. I said, well, have you ever read it? He said, Tim, I have to be honest with you. I've never read it. I said, promise me this. Promise me you'll just read the Gospel of John. He said, Tim, I promise you I'll read the Gospel of John. For all our hours of discussion, I promise you I'll read it. A month before he passed away, he walked into the kitchen and told his wife, I think the Christians are right and I think I'm wrong. He decided to build his house on the rock. Lee Iacocca, the former chairman of Chrysler, the man who helped restore the Statue of Liberty, has a saying that's one of my favorite. He said, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. This is the main thing. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. Now those are rock words you can build the house of your life upon. Wise King Solomon said, unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. His father, King David, in the end of Psalm 19 says, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. My Lord, my rock, and my Redeemer. Join us on the chorus. Hallelujah. He's my Savior. I will praise him. And we'd like to close this afternoon with our national hymn, written for the 100th anniversary celebration of our country. And my favorite stanza is the second stanza, which says, refresh thy people on their toilsome way. Lead us from night to never-ending day. Fill all our lives with love and grace divine, and glory, Lord, and praise be ever thine. Thank you, thank you. May be seated. We appreciate each of you who have come this afternoon. Always a pleasure to be here in Naples, Florida, where the weather is always perfect. And we want to say a big thank you to Chris Decker, pastor, all the committee, Jim at the sound, Dave doing the lights and all the video. We appreciate all their help to make us feel so wonderfully welcome. And we do have some recordings in the back. Our most recent recording is called Christmas Joy. It's a Christmas CD. Sunghwan Kim has a brand new piano CD that just came out last year. So we appreciate him. And we have something new this year. We have King's Brass on flash drives. Did you think that would ever happen? People have told us, hey, we have new cars, no CD players. Well, we took 5 CDs and put in one of those little flash drives, the little jump drives. You put it in that USB port in your car, and voila, you have King's Brass music. Well, my dad was a Navy vet during World War II, was always very proud of his Navy service. And this piece was premiered by a band during World War II. The band was called the Army Air Force Big Band, and their leader was none other than Mr. Glenn Miller.
Thank you.